So, was I the only one who felt like Queer Love was better than this season? Okay. Now, I watched the last of these episodes, but I'm still yearning for more. I guess I got kind of spoiled with watching Queer Love. Now, if you feel the same way, are you ready to hear my thoughts on breaking down some of these couples from a therapist's perspective? Here we go. Welcome back. I'm Denise Brady. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I see a lot of couples. And so I have my little cheat sheet here because I was taking notes like a studious student for y'all to help y'all understand some of the dynamics that, sometimes can go unnoticed. Some of the things you are seeing in your own relationship. So who y'all want to start with, okay? I think we're going to start with Trey and Raya because on the surface, they look like they might be kind of put together, but let's dig a little deeper. Now, Raya, to me, she seems like someone who really gets a lot of her influence and her thought process about relationships from social media. She has this idea of what a relationship with romance sometimes can be a fantasy because social media really gives us this highlight reel of people's relationships. And so I often see a lot of clients who come into my office really wondering, why is that not happening for me? Why is my man not doing that for me? Why haven't I found my person? Social media can sometimes be toxic when it comes to relationships because it gives you an idealized version of what you expect. When in reality, we don't know what's going on in the lives of these people. We don't know what their relationships are really like. So to me, her insecurities are only heightened by relationships that we see on social media, the lifestyle, the extravagant proposals, the trips. Not everyone is really living like that. Some of that's for clicks, some of it's to make money, but it gives us this, some magical thinking about what relationships should be like. So I think Raya is someone who has gotten caught up in what a relationship should be like according to social media instead of what is actually in reality. And I think that her insecurities, her not having her self-worth where it should be, played another role. So you have a man, Trey, who I think comes into a relationship, he has an idea of what he expects, what he wants, and she's trying to explain to him, she's trying to talk to him, but he's not hearing. He's listening, but it's going out one ear and through the other. And so oftentimes when people have conversations, relationships, are trying to talk about their problems, their needs versus their wants, sometimes they can't hear because they already have their minds made up about what they are hearing from their own perspective instead of what their partner is trying to convey and let them know what they need. Now, after only dating for 2 years, why are y'all on this show? Okay. After 2 years, to me, you know a person, but barely. I would say at this point, you should know if you want to build something with someone. Spending the rest of your life with them, yeah, I think I want that, but let me get to know you a little bit more, okay? Because oftentimes we see people in relationships 10 years, 5 years, and they feel like they woke up next to a different person because maybe they were so in a rush to put a label on it. Maybe they're so in a rush to have a baby. All these wants get in the way of what you see, what you saw, some of those red flags, okay? There's a lot of red flags in this relationship, and after 2 years, I don't know if I'll be on this show. I might be on the maps, okay? Hinge, Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel. I know about some of the apps, even though I am married. I do know about the apps, and I would think after 2 years, what is that, y'all met during the pandemic? Y'all need to be on this show. Just hop back in that, people, okay? And see what else is out there. Some of the other things I noticed was a big thing similar to Queer Love is how Trey, when they were on the couch and Raya was trying to talk to him and have a vulnerable moment, he tried to get close. Did y'all peep game? Similar to what we saw last season. Physical contact distracts you from stating your needs, from us having a conversation. I can distract you with the physical, but Raya did not fall for it, y'all. She's like, no, I'm not doing that. I want to talk. So I think they're in two separate places. They're opposites. They're not in the same place. Trey needs to grow and do some work on himself, mature some bit. You can't mask her needs in this relationship through trips, dinners, lingerie. Those things have been distractions. I think Raya also comes off a little bit conservative and not really experienced. A lot of her relationships have been mirrored by divorce. I wonder what her own childhood was like. It seems like when she was meeting with her sister, you heard some of the dynamics of how they grew up, and that is heavily influencing her relationship, not only with Trey, but I think how she sees herself in the world. And a lot of people can relate to only having mirrored relationships in a negative way, and how that affects how you see yourself in the world and how you position yourself in relationships. Sometimes you might just be coming from a place of always wanting that acceptance, approval, see me, hear me, and so your actions show, love me, love me, love me. I'm gonna do all these things to convince you that I'm worthy. I'm gonna convince you that I should be in your life. And so we also see that in Antonio and Roxanne. Similar, I think Antonio is somebody who is constantly trying to prove. And Roxanne reminds me possibly of a critical parent that he had as a child, trying to constantly prove his love, prove his worth. Now, in that scene when they were in the kitchen and old boy supposedly told him that she was disrespecting him, she was saying things, I do believe that happened. But once again, that anxious attachment style that need to be good enough. He just wants Roxanne to love him, to be approving of him. And Roxanne, her ego, she's ego driven. And because of where Antonio is, he drives her ego. They have a very toxic, critical, covert, emotionally abusive relationship. And so oftentimes men end up in these relationships because of the way that they had interactions with their mothers. The lack thereof, they're now in a relationship with a woman seeking that love, that unconditional love, that self-worth from their partner. And so he is seeking that so much from her that he doesn't see the red flags, or maybe he does, but he's so used to having that dynamic between him and his mother. His mom showed him that type of love. So now he's in a relationship where his woman is showing him that same type of love. And it's chaotic. You see him running down the street. I was like, can we follow him? Where he going? Okay. Let him show up to the apartment so we can get some real drama. Because this season did not have a lot of what we are used to, traditional drama. It was more like a lot of dialogue, a lot of covert manipulation, emotional abuse. But the last season now, I'm going to tell you once again, they really brought on all levels. But going back to Roxanne, even her mother is like, what are you doing to pour into Antonio his needs? His needs, she couldn't answer that because she's always in a position where men have to pour into her. Men are feeding into her. Okay. And so she has to let that ego go. Not have that ego be control of her relationship and control of her. I wonder about her relationships with other women too. Now, is she dominant in those relationships as much as she is with the male partners? And why does she have to feel dominant in her relationships? Why can't it be here? What has happened in her life to make it that she always has to be up here? Is it cultural aspects? That can play a role into it also. But this relationship between Roxanne and Antonio does not have a lot of equity. And people do not pay attention to the equity in their relationship because they're so used to having relationships be like this. But you can't have a relationship where you guys are equal, okay? And you're both pouring in, pouring out, and building together. But people don't realize and they forget that they need equity. As much as you need physical, as much as you need sexual, you need to make sure that relationship has some equity in it. Because you're only to a point where you feel so depleted, you become resentful. And you do not want to get to a point where the resentment is so high that you call me and I can't even fix it. Because just years of built up resentment over and over that you can't come away from. So once again, they don't need to be together either. They only need a TV show to tell them that, okay? Roxanne was all in because I'm really not that into you. So give me the permission to cheat, do what I want to do, okay? Because it's so many signs showing that Roxanne is not that into Antonio, but his need for see me, love me, that anxious attachment style has him being dismissive. I don't think ignoring, I think dismissive. He does not want to believe that she can disrespect him, that she would say these things about him because he thinks the world of her. And it's unfortunate because I think he's going to end up hurt. He's already hurting for a lot of things that he was using drugs, all these other things to avoid, that I hope he gets some help. Now, let's get into James and Ryan. Now, I knew after the first 3 episodes, I'm like, okay, what's going on with James? I thought it was more some more physical abuse related to some touching. Let your mind go where it goes, because that's what I initially thought. I still think that there might be something deeper, but seeing him with his mother, I could tell he comes from a household of a parent who has a disorganized attachment style. She's very critical. And as much as I I'm wondering about, does he really want to go to NASA? Does he really want to go to SpaceX? Or is it that his mom has pushed that upon him? Or does he really want to go? And maybe he's like, okay, I need to put this aside so I can keep my girl. But the mom in that scene came off very critical, very much like, it's all about me. I'm about the money. And SpaceX and NASA is going to bring you, not you, but me, some money. And I can brag about my son working at NASA. I can brag about my son working at SpaceX. And I can get the lifestyle. But because of this girl right here, you gonna stay? Because of her? See, Ryan, that's why I don't like you. That's what I heard the mom saying. It was me, me, me. And you saw how that kitchen scene, how he was triggered, but he was not able to convey in an appropriate manner his needs at that time and how he was triggered. He needs some of his own therapy because I think he has some complex trauma that he has not dealt with. And for him to open up and be vulnerable about the self-injurious behaviors that he was engaging in, that's a lot for a man to admit that on TV. And I applaud him, but at the same time, now that you have talked about it, now that you have voiced it, what are you going to do about it? Because sometimes I think people can use their trauma, their childhood issues as a weapon against people, or a weapon to manipulate. Now, I'm not saying he's exactly doing that, but after some scenes, I'm like, okay, you're talking about your trauma, you're talking about the things you went through. What are you going to do about it? Okay. As a child, maybe we were limited because our parents were more in control of how we heal, therapy, things like that. But now as an adult, I have an active decision to figure out, what am I going to do about this hurt? Because not only is it hurting me, it's hurting and affecting those around me. Okay. Now, I also think James is somebody who, once he realized he was about to lose his girl, he flipped. He realized, oh, I could really, lose her. Similar to some of the couples last season, once again, I could really lose her. So let me, acquiesce to the moment. Now, in the long term, is he really going to keep pouring in? Is he really going to work on himself, work on the relationship? I don't really think so. Because after 7 years, y'all don't live together. You haven't put a ring on it. You haven't fully committed. So how is this 8 weeks really going to change 7 years? It's not. Okay? It's really not. And I hope for Ryan, I hope she gets more confidence, more security in who she is as a person, and explores herself. Because James is not the end-all, be-all. He has some work to do. Okay? And you have to work on yourself where you know your self-worth and you know you're better than that. And a lot of people can relate because they've been in a relationship since they were in high school, middle school with the same person. But at some point, you got to realize, I got to put me first. I got to put me first. I got to put me first. Okay. Once again, I'm a couple who does not need to be together. Now, in the end, do I think that Ryan will go with Trey? I'm still on the fence about that, so we're going to have to see where things go. But, let's move on to Alex and Kat. Now, this couple to me was kind of a snooze fest. There's not much going on here. I think that he is very surface level. Notice how the manipulation happens for this type of person who, when you ask them a question, they flip it back, okay? He never really gives background. He never really answers the question. He just flips it back on you. On paper, he looks like he's a terrific guy. He makes money. He has it going on. But what's behind that? It seems like nothing. And even when he was arguing with Roxanne, he started to throw some misogynistic low blows. And I can tell that's how he talks to Kat, but Kat doesn't have that strong backbone that Roxanne has, because Roxanne's like, oh, we can go toe to toe. You want to bring it, I'm gonna bring it harder. But I can tell he becomes disrespectful with Kat and gets away with it. Some other things I picked up on them is that Alex is very passive. I thought her friends were kind of fake when they all met up together and they're like, girl, if he don't want you, then leave him. But then as soon as he walked up, hey, cheers, let's have a good time. It was super fake. Okay. Now, I do think that he realized what else was out there and he didn't like it. He met his match when he met Roxanne. Okay. Because Roxanne is somebody he was not expecting. She really has like, BDE energy. Okay. And he was not expecting it. He's used to dating passive women who I think fall for the trips, the money, the career, very passive women. But what he got with Roxanne, he got a smoke show. All the smoke. Okay. She was ready for it. He is very manipulative. I do think he was telling the truth when he told Antonio what Roxanne was saying, but Antonio was in denial. But he doesn't have much really going on outside of what's on paper. Be careful with these kind of guys, because you will get trapped in the lifestyle where you feel like you get so used to that lifestyle, the charisma, that you're blinded and you don't see the covert criticism, the covert manipulation throughout this whole season. I feel like it was all about covert manipulation, criticalness. A lot of these couples are opposites. A lot of these couples, you only been together 2 years and you on this show. Can we get some people who've been together like 10 years, 12, who really can show like, okay, I've been with this guy 10 years and we're not married. Not no 2 years, we just met during the pandemic. We was on lockdown. 2 years ain't nothing, okay? Now, these are my thoughts on these couples. A lot of opposites. Now, let me know in the comments who you think will stay together, who you think needs to just like call it quits and kick rocks. And make sure you like, you subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the couples. And I will see you in the next video.